Hello and welcome to Infinite Growth TV. I'm your host, Professor Econ Todd Allyn, in studio with a very, very important guest. Yeah, you stick around to the end. The information here is absolutely amazing. I met this individual, and we met him online. Had a great conversation with him. He is a coach's coach, and any of you that are out there that are wanting to be life coaches or fitness coaches or anything like that, and you want to do it online, this is the guy you want to talk to. Justin Grima. Justin, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Todd. How about yourself?
I'm awesome. And for our listeners and viewers, tell them where you are currently.
So right now I'm in Melbourne, Australia.
Which city in Australia?
Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Out on the southeast coast.
Okay. So the Opera House is in Melbourne, correct?
Opera House is in Sydney.
Sydney. Okay, I apologize.
Yeah. So just north. Probably about maybe an hour and a half flight, 2 hours flight up north.
Okay. Awesome. Now, Justin, you and I met and we had a wonderful conversation, and I just am awe-inspired by you and what you've been able to accomplish and how you've done it. Let's talk a little bit about how you got started in the coaching arena. What was the impetus behind getting involved in that? And I know the answer of who helped you out, but let's talk a little bit about who helped you out as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal development journey started back in 2013, early 2014. I always say I went through a midlife crisis in my early 20s. Through it wasn't fun, but it led me to make some really big changes. At the time, I was a carpenter. I was working 65 to 70 hours a week. I always tell people I was run down, I was stressed, I was fed up and just about ready to give up. And to be honest, my life was chaos. You know, I was going out partying on weekends, and I'd invested so much of my self-worth and into my job, into my construction job, and things started to kind of go sideways. I had a little bit of a negative interaction with a couple of foremans in the company, and I was kind of discarded, and it made me second guess everything, you know. So that second guessing led me to personal development. I was on YouTube one night in early 2014, and at the time it was silly. I was Googling stuff like how to earn money online, how to earn money without working, how to earn passive income. And I come across The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with The Secret, Todd.
Yes.
Yeah. And it just fascinated me. You know, the idea that thoughts create our reality, that we have control. And like in hindsight now, The Secret, it's a little bit airy-fairy. It's a little bit wishy-washy, you know. But it was the catalyst for me studying personal development and being introduced to the personal development industry as I knew it. So early 2015, probably about February of 2015, so 9 years ago, maybe towards the end of this month, I started getting mentored by Bob Proctor, whom you were alluding to a little bit earlier. Yes. I went through his year-long coaching program. He had a year-long coaching program at the time, and it completely changed my life. You know, I was able to quit my job. I was able to replace my income. In that year of 2015, I traveled for about 6 or 7 months of the year through Europe, a little bit of North Africa, and a little bit of Asia. So, you know, that completely changed my life. And when I got back from my trip in very early 2016, I knew that I was going to spend my life teaching this material, you know, the principles of success and the laws of the universe.
Wow, that's powerful. When you say that you went through a year-long coaching with the late great Bob Proctor, may he rest in peace, you then started coaching.
I did. My coaching journey was a little bit of It wasn't direct. So I got back from my trip in early 2016. I had a travel blog called Follow Your Bliss, right? And it sounds a little bit cliche now, but back in 2014, 2015, I become obsessed with like, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here? Why am I going to work for 65 to 70 hours a week, hating life? Why am I struggling? And it led me to Bob. It led me to personal development. So when I got back from my trip in 2016, my goals in 2016 and what I wanted to accomplish was very different to when I first started studying Bob in 2015. In 2015, it was about creating mental freedom, not working as a carpenter anymore. I was involved with a network marketing company called World Ventures. I had a travel blog, which I was able to monetize. And when I got back in 2016, I knew I wanted to coach, but I had a lot of insecurities around. I think I was 25 or 26 at the time. Who's going to listen to me? How am I going to be able to coach people? So I actually partnered up and worked with a couple here in Melbourne, Australia at the time. And they didn't really know what they were doing, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So most of 2016 was a little bit of a rough year. And I was listening to Bob used to, I'm not sure if you can remember, he used to live stream like the paradigm shift events and the science of getting rich and the think and grow rich events, where he'd host them in LA, but he would live stream them. He'd pay like $200 and he'd live stream them. And I was listening in on one of the live streams, and he was on stage and he said, if you want to create the life of freedom, you've got to learn from the best, right? You've got to go to the best. If you want to be the best, you've got to learn from the best effectively. And that kind of triggered something in my mind. So I reached out to the company and I actually become a Proctor consultant, where they had a consulting opportunity where, you were licensed to teach and facilitate their material. And they coached you on all the different parts of the business, how to find clients, your sales presentation, how to properly service the clients. And I got a little bit of a taste of that. I started that in late 2016. And then I thought to myself, you know what? If I want to really learn how to do this, I've got to go all in. And I flew in early 2017. I flew over to Canada, spoke with Bob, spoke with a couple people in his team, and ended up partnering up with him directly. So to do that, I had to sell my house. I had an investment property that I'd invested in 2 or 3 years earlier. And I invested over $100,000 to partner up with Bob and spent the next 5 or 5.5 years working directly side by side with him.
Wow. That's quite a commitment.
Yeah. I wanted it. I wanted it really bad. And it's funny because I think a lot of people, they're waiting to believe in themselves to move forward to their goals, And if there's one thing that I realized is you don't need to believe it to start. Right now, eventually to create the big results, you need to believe it, but for me, I knew that Bob could help me. I believed in the principles of success. I believed in the laws of the universe. And I believed that if I was put into the right system, right, that I could create the life that I wanted to create. And ultimately, that's what I did.
Wow. What about imposter? I'm trying to have some background music here. What about imposter syndrome? How did you overcome that? Or is that, let me rephrase the question. Imposter syndrome, is that something that you experience at any point in time? And if so, how did you overcome that?
It's a really good question. I didn't personally, no. I did have insecurities, insecurities like who's going to listen to me? I think I was 25 or 26 at the time. What if I meet someone who's earning more than me, for example? So I did have insecurities come up, but I've never had imposter syndrome because I've never been anyone except myself, and I've always been comfortable with who I am, right? So for me, I've always tried to be authentic. I tell the truth. You know, I try to represent myself as I am, not who I want people to think I want to be, if that makes sense. I see a lot of that online on Instagram where people have their real self and then their image, who they're portraying to be. And I never did that, you know, so I never felt like I was impostering on anything because I was always just being myself.
Did you ever feel at any point in time that you did not deserve your success?
Did I feel that I didn't deserve my success? I doubted myself a lot, you know. Whenever you're going after something that you've never accomplished before, whether it be an income goal or whether it be a lifestyle, doubt is a part of stretching yourself, right?
Yeah.
Getting uncomfortable is a part of stretching yourself, right? So, yeah, I mean, I doubted that I deserved it, but I never let that doubt control me, right? And I think that's the difference, right? One of the most common questions that I receive in my inbox is, how do I become fearless, right? How do I not feel fear? Fear is a human emotion, right? Anytime you set that C-type goal, right? That goal where you're really stretching yourself, you're going to feel fear. You're going to feel doubt. You're going to feel worry. You're going to feel uncertainty. However, feeling those emotions and living in those emotions are very different. See, living in fear is destructive, right? Feeling fear, it's a human emotion. So I got really good at not letting my doubts control me, not letting my fear control me. You know, I was 26 years old. I flew over to Toronto, Canada. I flew back home. I advertised my house for sale. I said to the real estate agent, I'll only sell it with you if you can do a 30-day settlement. I want this sold as soon as possible. No auction. Get me an offer and I want it sold. Like, everyone thought I was crazy, right? I had aunties and uncles calling me, like telling me, like, what are you doing? Your mum's so worried about you, you know?
Yeah.
I felt fear. I felt uncertainty. I felt doubt. I felt worry, but I didn't let those emotions control me.
How do you define fear?
I mean, I guess it's that sick feeling that you get in your stomach, right?
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
sweaty palms. It's the nervousness. It's the when you're trying to talk and you feel like someone's sitting on your chest, right? That the air just kind of won't come out, right? It's that feeling, and a lot of people let that feeling control them, right?
Yeah.
But the truth
reason,
is, oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say that the reason I asked that is because you have a slogan about fear. That fear, that your success is on the other side of your fears.
Yeah. I'll tell you something that Bob shared with me one time. He said, Justin, faith and fear, they live in the same house. They live on different floors, and they both require you to believe in something that isn't real. And when you make decisions from fear in your life, you recreate fear. And when you make decisions from faith in your life, you recreate faith.
Wow.
And I remember when he said that to me, it changed my whole life. It really did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't say this to tell people to be reckless. Like, I resist from telling people that I sold my house because I don't want people to think that I'm sitting here telling them to sell their house. Right. Like, as in, that's my journey. That was my story. Right. That was what I had to do at the time to get where I am, right? But it doesn't need to be that big of a gesture. Like, I speak to so many people who say to me, oh, I wish that I could open up an Instagram. I'm so passionate about this and I want to talk about this, but I'm worried about what people think of me. I'm worried about what my friends will say. I'm worried about what my family will say. Right? They're letting the opinions of others, they're letting fear control their life.
So when you do have a client that expresses fear, how do you walk them through that? Because, you know, I say fear is forget everything and run. So how do you coach someone through that? I mean, you have a person that may be talented, a talented coach, ticks all the boxes, right? authentic, authoritative, life experiences, all these different things, but they express that they have some fear, not doubt, but because I think that fear is a lot stronger than doubt. I mean,
Yes.
genuine fear to the point where they're just immobile. How do you coax them through that? How do you walk them through that?
It's really easy. You've got to understand what fear really is. Okay. So let's say, for example, you're earning $10,000 a month and you want to earn $20,000 a month, right? Your goal is to double your income. You've got to know that everything about your conditioning right now, your thoughts, your decision making, your beliefs, your thinking, is conditioned to keep you at $10,000 a month. Anytime you're going after something that you've never accomplished before, you're going to feel fear. Even when you're earning $50,000 a month and you want to get to $100,000 a month, or when you're earning $100,000 a month and you want to get to $200,000 a month, you've got to come from the awareness that fear is a part of growth. Fear is a part of the process. See, I don't know how you were raised, but I was raised to say, well, if it's scary, it's an indication that you shouldn't go for it, right? Well, if you're worried, well, if you're uncomfortable, it means that it wasn't meant for you. The truth is that you can't grow without fear. You can't grow without being uncomfortable. So it's not so much about talking my client through what they're actually going through as much as let's understand what fear is. Fear and growth go hand in hand. Being uncomfortable and growing go hand in hand.
Very, very powerful, Justin. Very powerful. So let's go back when you were going through your awareness stage, right? You've been a carpenter. You're going on your trip. You're trying to find the meaning of life. You meet Bob Proctor. You hear Bob Proctor. You're inundated with his ideas and his mindset. What was your first goal? What was your first, when during that coaching process, and you talk about goal setting, what was your first goal?
My first ever goal was to transition out of my full-time job, right? So it was like freedom for me at the time was not based around my income, right? It was based around getting my time and emotional freedom back, right? So I was earning a certain amount as a carpenter, and my first goal was if I can replace a certain part of my income, right? And I teach my clients this too. There are 3 strategies to transition from your, let's call it 9 to 5, to complete time freedom doing what you love or having your own business, right? So strategy number 1 is the worst strategy, and it's what 99% of people use, and it's quit your job Friday, start your business on Saturday, right? Well, what's the problem with this strategy? We all have bills, mortgage, car payments, rent, right? Utilities. Even if you have $100,000 saved, like even if you have a big cushion of savings, right? What happens when the money's not coming in and your basic needs aren't met? You're going to go into lack and limitation, worry, doubt, and fear. You're going to go into scarcity, right? And as soon as you're in scarcity, you can't create, right? You're constantly in worry and doubt. All of a sudden, the ideas stop flowing. All of a sudden, you're sitting in front of a prospect and you're saying, I really want to help you. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, geez, I really need this money. And they can feel that energetically, right? So that's strategy number 1. Strategy number 2 is what I coach my clients off of is, let's say you're earning $10,000 a month, right? We'll use a nice round number.
Yeah.
You sit down, you work out all your essential bills for the month, right? Rent, mortgage, car payments, utilities, whatever it might be. Let's say that comes to $6,000 a month. Well, your first goal is to replace that $6,000 a month. As soon as you replace that $6,000 a month, you've just unlocked complete time freedom. You can leave your job and you can start becoming a full-time business owner or a full-time entrepreneur, right? Then strategy number 3 is like a split the difference, right? It would be like going to your boss and saying, hey, how do I reduce my work hours from 5 days a week to 4 days a week or 3 days a week, for example? So you're you're reducing your income, but you're opening up a little bit more time to work on your business, right? So I utilized strategy number 2. I replaced a certain portion of my income. Now, I was very fortunate. I was living at home with my parents at the time. I was 23, 24 years old. You know, I had very little bills. I had very little essentials. I wasn't earning that much money. So the transition was quite easy for me.
Right. So that's good. That's very powerful. It's just like a snowball type of effect. The money that you're talking about earning, is this that they should earn this on a monthly basis, or once they hit it the one time they're good? How do you walk them through that?
I would always recommend hitting it for 3 months, right?
Okay.
And the reason why you want to hit it for 3 months, right, is because if you do something for 3 months in a row, 12 weeks, 15 weeks, right, you can almost guarantee that it's a habit, it's a paradigm, right?
Right.
I don't really believe that you can shift a paradigm in 30 days. I know that that's conventional wisdom. It takes 30 days to change a habit, you know?
Yep.
Look, if you're 40 years old, you've got 40 years of conditioning. If you're 60 years old, you've got 60 years of conditioning, right?
Yeah.
It sounds great to be able to change 60 years of conditioning in 30 days. It's not very realistic, in my opinion, from what I've seen from coaching thousands of clients and doing it myself. So I would always say, if you set that target, let's say your magic number is 6,000, right? If you hit that 6,000, or when you hit that 6,000 3 months in a row, then you can transition.
Yeah, that's good. So you're very systemic in your approach, right? And that's one of the things that I liked, is that even when you do your videos and you're talking about mindset, you're very systemic in the process. Is this something that Bob helped you with, or is this something that from your studies and in personal development that you found this?
I think it's a combination of both. You know, it's a combination of Bob teaching me the mindset, having done it myself, making plenty of mistakes. You know, I'm 10 years into my journey now, and if there's been a mistake to be made, I've made it, you know? So it's not always fun going through it, but it's a great way to have experience through what you're doing, and then through coaching so many people through it. So I think it was a combination of real life experience, being mentored by Bob, you know, and being in that environment and coaching so many people. Okay.
So what would you say, since you've made the mistakes, what would be the top 3 mistakes to avoid?
The top 3 mistakes to avoid.
And it doesn't have to be in rank order. It's just
I'll give you, I might not be answering your question directly. The number one things that holds people back. Can I cuss on this episode? Am I okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Try not to. The number one thing that holds people back is giving a fuck what people think of them. Fear of criticism. Okay. Right? Living from the outside in, but not only the outside in, living from other people's opinions. What are my friends going to say? What are my family going to think? What are the haters on social media going to say? Right? Mm-hmm. The number one mistake that I made for a very, very long time is I lived through other people's opinions, what other people thought of me. And I can tell you this right now, when I stopped caring about what other people think of me, right, it was like someone lifted a 300-pound piano off my back.
Wow.
Like the weight of, people will be able to relate to this because it's embedded inside of us. You know, the weight of living your life as a fully grown adult through the prism of what other people are going to think of me. And it's big things and it's little things. Like I've had friends say to me, well, I wish I could dress like that, but I know that everyone will pay out on me. And it's like, for me, that's sad. You have a fully grown adult, a fully grown man or a fully grown woman who is even too scared to dress the way they want to dress because they're worried about what other people's opinions. So the number one mistake would be caring about what people think of them. Okay.
Number 2.
So these are mistakes that I've made.
Yeah. Or like you did, you said number 1 mistake that you've experienced, and even from your coaching. But then, can you give me? Because typically, I like to do things in 3s, right? There were so. What was the second? What would be the second thing that you would recommend not to do?
The second thing I would recommend not to do. Can I change the question and say something that I recommend everyone should do?
Yeah,
Can I
perfect.
do that to you?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's a Jedi mind trick, Justin. Appreciate that.
And I only say this because I'm looking back at my journey, and I didn't do this for a long time. And even though I was
Yeah.
creating results, I was creating inconsistent results.
Understood.
And it's understanding the power of our self-image, right?
Right.
Our self-worth, self-esteem, and self-image are a direct reflection of what we draw into our life, and we can change it, but we can never outperform it, right? So our
Wow.
self-image acts as a thermostat in every area of our life. So we have a thermostat for our income, we have a thermostat for our weight, we have a thermostat for our relationships, right? And I see a lot of people, and I did this as well, stake their claims to success on raw effort, right? Working hard, being a hustler, being the hardest worker in the room. And I'm not saying that those aren't ingredients to being very, very successful. However, even through, on a broader sense, I was creating what people would consider as success. Even through the first 2.5 to 3 years of my journey, it was a lot of start, stop. 3 good months, 1 poor month. 4 good months, 2 bad months. 1 good month, 1 bad month. Very up and down. When I understood the power of the self-image, what self-image actually is, how my self-image is controlling my life, how to shift my self-image, that's when my life completely started to change. And that's when I started to create what I would consider effortless results, right? Where I wasn't getting 150% better every single month. I was getting 1% better every day, right? 0.5% better every day, even if you will. But it was every day. It was consistent. So you start putting good days together. You put enough good days together, you put good weeks together. You put enough good weeks together, you put good months together. Put enough good months together, good quarters. Enough good quarters, good years. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. But take me through when you talk about self-image, and I want to talk a little bit more about this, because I think that this is powerful and it's very, very, very important. Because when you talk about self-efficacy and you talk about self-esteem, those are, a matter of a person believe that they can, and then having that they can elevate themselves and having the confidence that they can do that. But when you say image, self-image, that is a totally different animal in terms of how you have your own personal avatar. Would that be a good way to say it?
Absolutely. I'll give you a good example, right? And I'll use weight as an example because it's very physical. People can relate to this, right? Let's say you have someone, they're 250 pounds, okay? But their ideal weight is 200 pounds. They're 50 pounds overweight, right?
Yeah.
They wake up, today's February 16th in the States, and they say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm going to go on a diet. I'm not going to eat anything white, right? All I'm going to do is eat lean meat and vegetables and some fruit, right? First week, they knock it out of the park. Now, let's remember, going on a diet is the first part of rewriting the paradigm, rewriting the conditioning, but it's incomplete. They put all their eggs in the basket of raw effort and in the physical world, right? Second week, they do even better. So they decide to jump on the scales and they've lost 6 pounds. Third week, they even better than the first 2 weeks. So they jump back on the scale, they've lost 10 pounds. All of a sudden, the outside image, the outside physical image no longer matches the image, the thermostat that this person holds in their subconscious mind, right? Because remember, 3 weeks ago, their outer image was a reflection of the inner image. They were 250 pounds. Then all of a sudden, this person can't get out of bed. They're just craving McDonald's. For 3 weeks, they were the first person at the gym, 5 a.m. All of a sudden, they can't wake up. What's happened? There's a disconnect between the physical image and the image that this person holds of themselves in their subconscious mind, right? They might even attract an injury. They might hurt their ankle or hurt their back, and then conditions and circumstances will happen. They'll start eating unhealthy. They'll put on that 10 pounds that they lost. You meet the person 1 month, they've lost 10 pounds. You meet them another month, they've put on 10 pounds. And they're losing 10 pounds, gaining 10 pounds, losing 10 pounds, gaining 10 pounds. And at the end of the year, they'll say, fuck, I gave it a red hot go, but it's just not meant for me. You know what? I tried so hard. There's nothing more that I could do, right? Well, this person is ignorant of the image that they hold of their subconscious mind. However, if while dieting, I'm not saying not to diet, the physical is extremely important. If while dieting is what the person did was took a pen and a paper and wrote out in the present tense exactly how they would like to see themselves and exactly how they would like to feel about themselves. And while dieting, started impressing this image in their subconscious mind, right? They might set an alarm on their phone every 2 hours. If the person wakes up at 6 a.m., they can set an alarm for 8 a.m., 10 a.m., noon, 2, 4, 6, 8. And when their alarm goes off, they can stop and they can read the image. And they can keep impressing the image on their emotional mind. Well, now, as what they're doing is they're changing their physical behavior while also shifting the image that they hold of themselves in their subconscious mind.
So is this considered auto-suggestion?
This is utilizing the principle of auto-suggestion. That's correct. What's auto-suggestion? Okay. Auto-suggestion is a suggestion from yourself to yourself.
Okay. And Napoleon Hill was big on that in his book.
Yeah. Well, the whole book is based around auto-suggestion, really. Like every chapter has a different name, but all arrows are pointing towards auto-suggestion.
Yeah. And it's the conversation you have with yourself, is it not?
That's exactly right.
So how long did it take you to kind of start that process for yourself, or what was your self-image prior to, and then how did you get into that mode? Because, you know, as you said, that we're conditioned, and depending upon the age of a person, that if they're 15 to 98, that they have this condition. I think the Jesuits said, show me the boy at 7, I'll show you the man. So the idea of that programming that we have, how did you recognize that, or was this something that was told to you? What was that process? How did you learn?
So these concepts are the concepts that I was taught by Bob Proctor, right? So this is the awareness of going through his coaching program was helping me consume this information, and it was helping me understand how my mind works, right? What is my conditioning? What is a paradigm? How is a paradigm controlling my life? How do I shift a paradigm, right? However, if someone's sitting there right now and listening to this and saying, well, that makes sense, but how do I know where my self-image is conditioned around money? Well, all you need to do is take a look at your bank account. Or if you want to know where is your paradigm conditioned around relationships? Now, let's remember, it has nothing to do with your potential. It has everything to do with your past thinking, right? But if you want to know where your paradigm is conditioned around relationships, all you need to do is look at how the people around you treat you, or how you treat those around you, right? It's the same with your physical body. If you want to know where your thermostat, where your self-image is conditioned around your physical health, all you need to do is take a look in the mirror. Am I constantly sick? Am I always run down, right? Am I carrying that 15 or 20 pounds that, I mean, I've just been carrying it for my whole adult life? That's the image.
And I think it goes back to when you were saying that how people would look at you, because I've heard it before as well. I was 260 pounds. I lost 40 pounds, and I continue to lose. But people around me say, "Oh, you look real skinny. You know, you look too skinny." Some friends, "Oh, we don't want you to look like a crackhead." They say those kinds of things. But so to your point, it's very challenging that because we are social creatures, it's very challenging to kind of walk contrary to the herd, and finding like-minded people who walk contrary to the herd.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story, right? So I've got two little nephews, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And so I work the American work week. So my work week goes from, we're a day ahead here in Australia, so Tuesday to Saturday. So I have Mondays off, and a lot of the Mondays I spend with my sister and my two nephews. And we went to the zoo one time, and we were doing one of those tours. Takes you through like a safari. You get in the bus, and all the animals are around you and stuff. And it was me, my sister, my two nephews, and in front of us was a lady and two kids, right? And the lady on the safari, so the lady who was driving the bus, it was just the 7 of us on the cart, right?
Yeah.
Was prompting the kids. She was asking questions and prompting the kids to yell the answers out as loud as they could, right? And the two kids that were in front of us were being hilarious. They had so much personality, right? And the lady was asking questions, and this little boy was standing up on the seat, and he was screaming the answer out as loud as he could, right? Top of his lungs.
Right.
And the mum kept looking back at me and my sister and kept telling him to sit down. And I turned around to my sister and I said, that's how fear of criticism is built into us. This kid would have been 6, max 7 years old. He was being himself. He was being hilarious. He wasn't sitting in church or in the middle of a restaurant. He was doing what the lady asked him to do. The mother's insecurity, thinking, what are the people behind me thinking of me and thinking of my kids, was what triggered her to grab him. And she kept pulling him down and kept saying, calm down. Well, what are the neighbors going to think? Hey, what are people around you going to think? Then one day, if you tell a child that enough times, one day they're going to go to express themselves, and there's going to be that little voice in the back of their head that says, oh, what's Todd going to think of me?
Yeah.
I would say that, but I'll just hold on to it. Right?
Yeah.
And they start expressing how they feel, right?
Yep.
And that's where it starts. That's where it stems from.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's sort of like where the greater society is headed at this point as well, right? Because now if you think contrary to the herd, they call that misinformation or disinformation, right? So it almost sounds as though like what we're talking about is a religious or spiritual type of thing. How would you define that? I mean, if someone says, "Oh, that's very spiritual," or "That's very religious," how would you define this concept or the thought process of mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it religious, but it's definitely spiritual, right? And here's the thing: the first freedom that I desired the most was emotional freedom. That was my greatest desire. I was run down. I was stressed. I was fed up and just about ready to give up, right? I was always angry. I was always mentally arguing with people in mind. Everything was chaos. Drama used to follow me everywhere I went. Everything was a scenario. Everything was this big deal, right? And like, I felt like I was 24 and I was white knuckling it through life. I was like, how long can I keep going like this?
Yeah.
Right? So the first bit of freedom that I desired the most was emotional freedom. And when you taste that, right, when you really start understanding how emotional freedom works and how good it feels, people's opinions mean nothing to you.
Yeah.
They really don't. You know, so, I mean, is it spiritual? Yeah. And it's the highest form of self-respect. Working on yourself, taking time every single day, whether it be half an hour, to understand you, understand how your mind works, understand why am I creating these results. Someone might be listening to this. They might not want to be a millionaire.
Right.
And a lot of people don't want to be millionaires. A lot of people just think to themselves, you know what? If I had $100,000 in the bank, if I was doing what I love, if I had more time with my kids, if I just never had to worry about a bill again in my life, I would be happy. And you could do that. You know, it's a lot closer than people think.
Yeah. Yeah. How old were you when you hit your financial goal?
I was When I hit my first financial goal was in the beginning of 2017. So I'd been studying personal development with Bob. I've been studying personal development since early 2014, right? And then I started being mentored by Bob February of 2015, and I hit my first financial goal early 2017. So I ticked a lot of boxes off between then, quitting my job, creating multiple sources of income. But as for my first income goal, early 2015.
Okay.
17. Pardon me, 17.
Okay. And how easy is it for you to scale that goal at this point?
I don't think about it. I literally, it never comes across my mind. I literally wake up every single morning. I focus on getting better every single day. Focus on being the best version of myself. Right? I focus on disciplining my mind. Right? I focus on creating winning behaviors. I have a great team underneath me. I focus on servicing my team, helping them get better, make sure everything is running smoothly. And it literally never crosses my mind.
So I asked that. I'm going to ask it a different way. Do you still set goals?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So I set goals. Everyone should have a measurable and tangible goal. I affirm my goal for 4 or 5 minutes every single morning in the mirror. I'm so happy and grateful now that insert my goal, and then I let it go, and I focus. I spend the rest of my day focusing on the person I need to become. What are the habits of someone who is earning X? What are the behaviors? What is the self-worth, the self-esteem, the self-image? How would someone who's earning X respond to positive feedback? How would someone who is earning X respond to negative feedback? How would they deal with a difficult client? Would that person react or respond in this situation? That's what I'm thinking about all day long, right? Then I have a real focus in on my income for the last 45 minutes of the week when I go through all the numbers, work out, expenses, do like the bookkeeping. That's the most I focus on my goal. And I need to focus on that because at the end of every week, my results are a reflection of what's going on inside of me. So if I earn, just for example, 5,000 this week, 3,000 next week, 1,000 the week after, I say, okay, if my results are a reflection of what's going on inside of me, something's not right. We're going backwards here. Alternatively, if I do 5,000 this week, 7,000 next week, 2,000 the week after, well, my results are a reflection of my behaviors. So I know that I need to go to the primary cause. So I'm using them as a check-in. Am I progressing or digressing towards my goal? Where's my consistency at? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. So we talked earlier about how it's difficult or challenging to behave a certain way or to if we are trying to do something that we've never done before, how that can sometimes be a challenge. So if we're talking about creating a self-image or an image of what would a person that is earning XYZ, what would be their behaviors, how do we do that not without some sort of a guide? Right?
Well, that's where
there's no list there's no list. Okay, a person at $100,000 a year or a person at $250,000 a year, this is the differences in behavior. There's no scale like that. So how do we find that out?
So the answer has two parts, right? The first part is that's why mentorship is so important, right? There is literally 0% chance I would be where I am right now, right? If it wasn't for Bob seeking that specialized knowledge. The one common denominator between anyone who's created anything of significance, it could be an actor, athlete, entrepreneur, CEO, Olympian, they all have a mentor, right? They all have someone to literally take them by the hand and show them step by step on what to do and how to do it. And here's the thing, success is not a secret, it's a system, right? So if you can find someone who has walked the path that you want to walk, who has the results that you want to achieve, and that person can give you a roadmap and show you exactly what to do and how to do it, why wouldn't you do that? Now, there are people who say, I don't believe in a coach, or I think a coach is a waste of money. That's fine. But let's see with your results. I mean, if you're rocking and rolling and you think you don't need a coach, that's great. Then you probably don't need a coach. But if you're stuck, if you've been earning the same money for years, if you're in that same job that you don't like, if you're constantly living the same loop and you're sitting around saying you don't need a coach, I mean, for me, that's the definition of insanity. So the first part to that is, you know, there are people out there who have walked the path that you would like to walk.
Yeah. What about those who say, don't need a coach, I can just go to YouTube University?
I would say, how is your results? Let the results be the name of the game. Hey, if you're earning what you want to be earning, if you're living exactly how you want to live, if you're growing at the rate that you want to grow, right, then hey, who is to argue with you? What you're doing is working. Yeah. But I have a lot of people come to me and say, well, I think I could do it on my own. And I say, I respect that. Do your results show you that you can do it on your own? So for anyone who says that, I completely agree. But are your results in harmony with what you're saying you believe?
Right. In terms of going through this process, has this changed your personality? We say that it hasn't changed who you are. You've always been who you are, but hasn't.
I think I've lost you.
Okay. Can you hear me, Justin?
I got you back now. Yeah, I lost you there for a little bit.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Climate change. What I was asking is that you're very systematic in your approach. Has that changed you? Not from the standpoint of looking at your successes, but in terms of with your relationships, does this make you robotic, or are you still free flowing? How has this affected your personality?
I'd like to think that it's made me a better person, you know. And look, like my core principles, I've always been trustworthy. I've always been loyal. You know, I've always been someone who prided myself on telling the truth. But at the same time, I'd like to think that it's helped me mature. It's helped me communicate better. So yeah, I mean, you got to think, like, when I started studying this, I was 24 years old, right? So now as a 32-year-old turning 33 at the end of the month, I look back and like I was a kid, right? So I'd like to think that it helped me grow and it helped me mature and it helped me become a better person, you know?
Yeah.
In terms of like being robotic, it's actually a really good question, because it's kind of like a really funny balance between finding your disciplines and doing what you need to do, right? While also still not living like a robot, you know? Yeah. And the way to do that is give yourself less. Like, I don't have every moment of my day planned out. It's not like I have from the moment I wake up in the morning right through to when I go to bed mapped out to the minute, right? There's a great quote by Bruce Lee. He says, I never fear the opponent who practices 1,000 moves. I fear the opponent who practices one move 10,000 times, right? Wow. So I have a couple of key indicators that I know that I need to hit and I need to execute every single day to be the best version of myself. And I focus on those key indicators. I focus on those disciplines. I focus on those habits, right? And everything in between then is enjoying life as it comes.
So you started this at 24. How do you talk to someone that may be starting this process at 40, 45, 50? They actually have their midlife crisis midlife.
I would say this.
How do you help them?
Every age bracket, right, has its own advantages and its own disadvantages, right? So when I'm 24 years old, I've got time on my side, right? Yes, the truth is I could sell my house, and if it didn't work out, I could have went and lived back with my parents, work hard, save that money back. X person at 60 might not have that luxury to be able to take that big of a risk. But then the flip side of that is I was extremely immature, right? My emotional maturity was nowhere where it needed to be for me to get to where I am, right? So every age bracket has its own advantages and its own disadvantages. So that person who's 60, maybe they can't take a big of a risk, but they've got great life experience. They're mature. They're more established, right? Their word will mean more than a 24-year-old's word, even if they haven't accomplished as much as that 24-year-old.
Right.
So you've got to ask yourself, am I focusing on the advantages of my age bracket, or am I focusing on the disadvantages? They're both there.
Right. Very good. Very good. You've helped your clients in terms of income goal gain nearly $10 million in revenue, gross revenue to their bottom line. How does that make you feel?
It's a lot of fun. Coaching is a lot of fun. It's for me personally, and I don't want to get too cliche here, it's a very special feeling, right? Every part of the process, from when this person invests money with me, I'm very aware that this person has taken money that they've worked damn hard for, that they've saved. Some people don't even have the money. They're leveraging themselves on credit or whatever it might be. So it's a very special feeling, and instantaneously there is a connection with that person, right? Right through to getting to know them, right? Breaking down the walls, getting comfortable with each other, understanding your style of communication. I can't talk to Todd the same way I can talk to Mary, for example, through to watching them get their first breakthrough, through to watching them create the life that they want to create, is a very special feeling. It's a lot of fun, you know. So have any of them named their children after you? Not yet. Not yet. But here's the thing, right? It's a funny question that you asked, because I feel like a lot of coaches, right, their ethos now in today's 2024 social media economy, they're doing their best to try to make their audience and their clients think more of them, right? I want my clients to think more of themselves. I don't want my clients to love me. I want my clients to love themselves. I don't want my clients to fall in love with me. I want my clients to fall in love with my message. You know, so I try, you know, I'll get my clients messaging me saying, like, thank you so much, you've changed my life. And I'll message them right back, you changed your own life. You did the work, right? You got up early. You studied every day. You discipline your mind. Because it's easy for us to fall into, oh, I love this person so much. But we've got to feel that way about ourselves. And Bob did that really well. Right? I learned that from Bob. Right? Bob he had no ego. Right? Whenever I'd thank Bob, he would flip the script on me. He'd say, stop thanking me. You did the work. Right?
That's powerful.
I think it's very important.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Do you want raving fans or disciples?
Neither. Neither. Literally. I honestly, I mean it wholeheartedly and sincerely when I say this, right? When you get a social media manager, they give you a blueprint of what works, right? Build an army, get people on your side, you know, make it so people would go to war for you or whatever it might be, like the Andrew Tate model. I don't want any of that, right? I want to get my message out. The laws of the universe and the principles of success completely changed my life, right? It helped me go from a carpenter working 65 to 70 hours a week, literally white knuckling it through life, to creating every form of freedom that someone can imagine, right? Sometimes I think someone picked me up by the ears and put me into someone else's life. That's how much my life has literally changed, right? I don't want people to think more of me. I want people to think more of themselves. When people click on my social media, I don't want them to fall in love with me. I want them to understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Powerful.
Right?
You have an important photo behind you, my friend. Could you explain that photo? Because Justin, I mean, not only are you on the other side of the world for those of us here in North America, and you speak funny. We discussed this photo. Share with our viewers what the photo is and why is that significant to you, and then we'll talk about the cultural significance of that photo being important to you.
Yes. So that is a young lady's name. Her name is Ruby. She was in New Orleans, I believe. And it was in a period in America where they were integrating the schools between blacks and whites. And if my memory serves me correctly, the African-American students had to sit a test to graduate into the school, which was primarily white Americans. And she passed the test, but the school still didn't let her join. And she put her heels down and she said, I'm going to school. No one's taking away from me. I get goosebumps just talking about it. No one's taking away from me the opportunity that I earned and I deserve. And I come across the photo. I read her story in full. And I thought, shit, if she can do it, I can do it. Right? Like, as in, if she can have the courage, I mean, you got to assume that she was scared, right? What is she in that photo? She's 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, max, right?
Yeah.
And it gives me a lot of courage, you know? So that photo has been in every office that I've worked in or that I've owned right up from about 2017 right up through now. And I look at the photo sometimes, I remind myself of the photo, I remind myself of the story, and I draw a lot of inspiration from it.
Now, I mean, that's very powerful, because here it is that you are a non-melanated person, but yet one of the images of courage to you is a little black girl. That says a lot about you. That says a lot about your personality, your character, that you're really colorblind, but you look to a person's heart.
I'll tell you something funny, right? And my girlfriend might be watching this.
Well, let's hope so.
We're expecting a little girl in July, late July. And from when I first seen that photo and read the story, I've always wanted to name my first daughter Ruby, right?
Wow.
But my girlfriend has a cousin who she's very, very close with, whose name is Ruby. So the name is on the no list. Okay. But look, I look at the act, right?
Yep.
For me, it's a great act of courage. And we were kind of talking about this earlier, but I like to kind of put it out on the table. Like, I still get scared, right? I still feel fear, right? I still make mistakes. I still try things that don't work. My greatest advantage is, for every mistake I make, for every bit of fear that I feel, anytime doubt or worry creeps in, it never controls me. I play on.
Yeah.
I make a mistake, I sit back. A lot of people go into victim mentality. Oh, it's never going to work for me. They beat themselves up. They hold on to their mistakes. I sit back. I ask myself, what can I learn from this situation? How can I not How can I not make this mistake again?
Yeah. You know, for someone who may be watching and may be familiar with you and understanding where you are in your station of life in terms of financial or income or just lifestyle, to hear you say that you still have fear is, you know, people believe that when you hit a certain income level that the fear goes away.
Look, these people, these influencers on social media, right, who stand up there and are on stage and they're talking about how fearless they are and how they never feel fear, I'm telling you it's bullshit. I'm telling you right now. My mentor was Bob Proctor. He had the highest awareness and knew this material more than anyone that I've ever met. He was the founder and CEO of $100 million a year company. He still felt fear. I remember one time I was at dinner with him, and he was I was living in Toronto at the time. My visa in the US got denied, so I went and lived in Toronto for a little bit, and he lived in Toronto, and occasionally we would go out for dinner. And I remember he said to me, "What are you working on right now?" And I was kind of in that phase where I was still feeling it out, and I didn't want to be like telling him that I was working on this or that, because then I didn't want him to think less of me, you know? And then I kind of played it off with like a half-ass answer. And then I'm like, well, what are you working on? He's like, my confidence. And I thought to myself, Bob Proctor's working on his confidence. And I asked him, and he said, yeah. He said, that voice creeps in. You're old, you don't need the money. He said that voice still creeps in. He's like, so I'm working on silencing that voice, right? So this is the problem with social media, right? Where when those people stand up on stage and say, I'm fearless, if you feel fear, you're going in the wrong direction, right? Then John Doe is listening to that and they feel like a fuck up. They feel like they're defected because they're feeling fear. Oh, I never have a bad day. Every day is my best day. I never get tired. What do you mean? Being tired is a human emotion. I have more energy than anyone I've ever met. I still get tired.
Right.
The message is important because people are listening to this and then thinking, well, I must be defected. I must be broken. Right? It's a very dangerous message. I prefer to tell the truth and say, yeah, I feel fear. It never controls me. Fear will never control my life again. But I still feel the fear. I've just learned how to navigate my way through it.
Right. So how are you going to teach your daughter? How do you teach your daughter these things from the young age that from the beginning?
I think just by living it, right? Yeah. I think that's the best way is that she's in an environment where she will not listen to what I say as much as she will mirror what I do, right? So living by what I teach, and I think that's the same with being a successful coach. I get messages all the time, people like telling me that how authentic I come across, and I just post videos about what I'm going through. I'm not reading a script or I'm not researching ideas, or people say to me, how do you get content ideas? And I say, I'm living it, right? It's just I'm just taking what I'm going through in my day to day and I'm just putting it on Instagram, So
right.
I think that the best way to teach her this is by living it, how I treat her mother, how her mother treats me, and how I show up for her.
Yeah. I'm changing the there we go. Justin, take me through your daily routine. Now, and the reason I asked that is because I know that you're a fan of The Rock, because you did post a video and you said, because The Rock gets up at 2 a.m, I'm going to get up at 2 a.m. And I thought that was unique. Take me through your day.
So my day does start at 2:30 in the morning, right? I'll give a little bit of context to that. When I first partnered up with Bob in 2017, I moved over to the States, right? I lived in San Diego for a little bit. I lived in Toronto when I was having visa problems, and I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona. So my company is global. I have clients in Asia. I have clients in Europe. I have clients in the US. So to match a time zone where I can service all my clients and everyone can get the best of my services, I work the Pacific Standard Time. So I work the California working day, so I'm up at 2:30 every single morning. The first thing I do is make myself a cup of coffee, have a shower. While I'm making myself a cup of coffee and having a shower, I'm going through gratitude, right? Things that I'm grateful for, that I slept in a warm bed last night, that I live in a house of electricity, that I have warm water, just real simple stuff that just resonates and connects with me, things that I took for granted. But when I traveled through North Africa, through Asia, through India, through Nepal, realized, hey, not everyone has warm running water, right? That was a big shock to me. ignorant me thought that electricity, everyone has electricity. Hey, not everyone has electricity. Not everyone knows what a fridge is, you know? And then once I finish my gratitude, I get into my office. I do about 5 minutes of auto suggestion, right? Where I take my goal and I auto suggest my goal in the mirror. After my auto suggestion, I do about 20 minutes of study, right? At the moment, I'm reading Think and Grow Rich, but I go between Think and Grow Rich and The Power of Awareness by Neville. I check in with my team. You know, I've got a great team. I've got a great social media manager and really good people working with me. And then I get into my day, income producing activities, whether it be sales calls or coaching calls. That goes from about 3:15 to about 7 when my girlfriend wakes up. We've got a beach just, you know, a couple hundred yards away. We go down, walk on the beach, go for our morning walk, kind of catch up. Do that for probably an hour and a half. Come back into my office, work for another hour and a half, 2 hours, and then spend my day doing what I enjoy, training for a marathon, spending time with my girlfriend, spending time with friends and family. And that's my day.
Awesome. How long did it take you to get into the habits?
It took a long time. Yeah. Here's the thing, right? I say this to everyone. Earning money is easy, right? Changing your thinking and your behaviors, that's where the work is. You know, so you've got to remember, if someone's listening to this, I've stacked these habits on top of each other over 10 years, right? I didn't just wake up and start doing all these things in one day. That's why I say to people, less is more. If you're listening to this right now and you're feeling completely stuck and you're 100% overwhelmed, sit down and ask yourself, what's the number one thing holding me back right now? Right? What's that one habit or that one behavior that I know is really bad, right? Write it down. And what's the polar opposite to that, right? Write the polar opposite in the present tense. Focus on that for the next 60 days. Focus on one thing. See, through the law of causation, if you fix that one thing, if you shift that one thing, 10 things below it will automatically fix themselves. That's what people don't understand. People say, I've got to fix these 10 things. These 10 things are no good, right? However, you don't need to address all 10 things at once. If you focus on one thing, 4, 5, 6 of those things beneath it will start falling into line. Does that make sense? Yeah,
absolutely.
So, absolutely. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of accountability. It took a lot of being vulnerable. You know, it took a lot of failing my way forward. It took a lot of, and this is the hardest thing, showing up as the person I want to become with not one scrap of physical evidence that I was going in the right direction. Right?
Yeah. There's your faith, right?
There's the faith. That's where the faith's got to come into it.
Yeah. You know, we've been talking here for an hour, and I really appreciate your time, Justin. You know, as I told you when we talked, you are a very authentic person, and that comes through, and I appreciate that. There are a lot of gurus, life coaches who don't have the experiences, but have the academic knowledge, if you will. But you have it all. You have not only the academic knowledge, but the life experience as well, and the courage to go after what you want. And that is very, very important, because most people are unhappy. I think it was said that most people live lives of quiet desperation, and so they're searching for an out, not just an outlet, but they're searching for an out. And I think that when a lot of people are in the coaching space, there's a lot of people that have a lot of grandiose ideas, but there are not a lot of people who have receipts of their success, and you have receipts.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So let me ask this final question again, because I do appreciate your time, and I'd like to have you back on again in the future if if your handlers present it. I'm just joking.
It would be my pleasure to come back on. It would be my pleasure.
So Justin, you've been through a lot. If where you are now in your life, if you could go back to a younger Justin before his midlife crisis, what would you say to him?
What would I say to him? So before I started studying personal development, what would I say to a younger me? Have you dropped out? Have I still got you there? Sorry.
No, I'm still here. I'm just using some camera.
Oh, sorry. I'm not very good with
fine.
technology. I thought I lost you there for a second.
No. Let's start it over. I was trying to be dramatic, Justin.
No, you're okay. What would I say to a younger me? I'd probably say stop being a victim. You know, I can tell, I can look back at the first 22, 23, 24 years of my life, and I had my fingers pointing outward, raised by a single mom, grew up in a, poorer, lower socioeconomic area, didn't go to great schools. I always had an excuse pointing outward why where I wasn't my fault. When I took complete responsibility for where I was, when I stopped telling my victim story, when I stopped blaming others, when I stopped blaming my outside circumstances, that's when my whole life changed. And it was difficult. It was difficult because for a long time, it was like I was in a battle with myself against myself, right? Like I would go to take responsibility for where my life was, and then that voice in the back of my head, but this person treated you like this, but this person did this to you, but you were raised like this, but this person got that opportunity and you didn't. And when I shrugged that voice, when I stopped being a victim, when I stopped blaming my outside circumstances, that's when my life really started to change.
I appreciate that, Justin. And just one final question, and the reason I'm asking this is because my grandfather was next to God to me, right? My grandfather, if God and my grandfather ran in a foot race, the only way that God would win is because he leaned at the tape. Talk to me about how your relationship with your grandfather in that whole situation, how that impacted you and how you were able to come to deal with that.
Yeah, I never really met my biological dad. My mom and my biological father split up when I was 15 months old, 18 months old. So my grandfather was he was a father figure to me, and he stepped up and he was always around and he always supported us and he always supported my mom and I was very close to him, and I looked up to him. It's probably the only person in my whole entire life that I've ever looked up to and idolized was him, and like my opinion of him is the same as your opinion of your grandfather. He's next up to there with the best thing since sliced bread, in my opinion. And,
right.
Yeah, he was a good, honest, hardworking man who was a great father, a great grandfather, and just a really good person. And it was funny because when he passed away, this is going to sound really weird. This is just me speaking out loud, but I come from a big European family. My mum's one of 14 or one of 15. I've got dozens and dozens and dozens of cousins. And as I was growing up, I would always be going to my cousin's wedding and I would see them. They'd bring up my grandparents and they'd thank my grandparents. And when he passed away, and even when my grandma passed away, it kind of struck me that they were never going to meet my kids, that they weren't going to be there at my wedding. I never put that time thing together, you know. So I can definitely say that when my grandfather passed away in 2014, it was a huge catalyst for me to be like, okay, you're not going to live 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Right. And my job going a little bit pear-shaped alongside with my grandfather passing away was definitely the first pin to drop in my midlife crisis in my early 20s.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Justin, again, you know, I really appreciate you being open and transparent. And I would like to say this to you, that I am sure that your grandfather is looking down from above, and he's very proud of you. Thank you so much, Justin. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for
And
having me on.
I'm just going to put you backstage, and then I'll get with you in just a moment. But let me finish by saying this, folks. You have just heard the story of Justin Grima, a very, very successful coach who is available. I will put his contact in the description when this is placed on the YouTube channel. I highly suggest that if you are a coach and you are looking to grow your business in a thought-provoking, mindful way that sticks and stays, contact Justin. You'll be glad you did. And remember this: we are what we continually do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Until next time, you're watching Infinite Growth TV. Be blessed.